right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds of all ages, guess what? I'm doing my very best Cooper Daniels impersonation. I've got the Aloha shirt. I'm sipping on a faux margarita, and I'm out there lounging by the pool today because Cooper is out there by the pool today. So I'm a nerd that knows a little about a lot. And today we got a special guest host.
We've got JT. Thanks for having me on the show, and thanks for Cooper for letting me fill in his shoes. It's big shoes to fill, so I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, we've got a
And
fun background, deep dive kind of a thing today. We're going to take lots of questions and chat
hell
stuff
yeah,
today too.
I think your Cooper impersonation is spot on.
Yeah,
Yep,
I'm a nerd who knows a little about a lot.
perfect.
I thought about trying to get a plant in the background, but I just thought, hey, the fake background has a plant there. It's good enough.
Yep. You did just go back to green screen though.
Mm. Yeah, no, I'm no longer in the pool. I went back. I
Okay,
went back
okay.
to coffee as well. So I'm back to nerd territory over here.
I'm breaking the rules, and I brought water to coffee with Krypto. So
Oh man, that's all right. We'll forgive you this time. And next time though, you got to show up with coffee. You got to have a better mug too. You got to have it like I know you just got like a regular old glass there. You got to have like a some kind of representation.
hey, we recycle here. This used to be a jar.
I love it. I love it. Environmentalism is the cornerstone of Algorand blockchain and
Of
and
course.
all the territory we've got there. So we're gonna open up the chats here, and we've got a lot of topics that you and I want to cover today. And I think we should kind of just start with just letting the community know, hey, go ahead, ask questions in the chat there as you get familiar with the lay of the land here. We're going to cover smaller projects, some TVL, some governance questions, a couple of specific projects that got asked about in a Twitter poll kind of that you put out unofficially. Let's start off with smaller projects, JC. What kind of smaller projects are you watching right now?
Am I personally watching to like add to my portfolio?
Or
You know,
just interested in, not necessarily your portfolio. I know you're not a widespread portfolio guy. You're really selective.
Yeah, I mean, I would be if I was more convinced we were back in a bull market. But that
Yeah.
being said, there is so much going on in the space right now. I mean, I do have a lot more of my eyes on the bigger projects. I know when I made that Twitter uh, question the other day that you just commented on. So many people mentioned things I had never really heard of before, like C Token. I know I've heard of it, but not really looked into it. Birdbot,
Hmm.
Pollinize, and things like that. Cosmic Champs, which you said you've heard more of. So
Yep.
I actually maybe am not the best go-to for some of these smaller projects, to be honest.
Yeah. It's okay. There's a ton of new projects
It,
in
it,
the ecosystem, right? And it's
it
growing every single day.
it's nearly impossible to keep up with.
If our audience has some specific smaller projects that you see out there, feel free to post them in the chat. I want to see what kind of smaller projects you're watching. I have been watching a few of these. So ASA Portfolio is a good one. I like
Mm,
them. There are people have compared them to DFly, but I think unfairly because they're not really the same kind of aggregator, and they've got some other sort of features there. But they've flown under the radar a little bit. The team is out of, I want to say, Spain, maybe Portugal. I think Spain. Their founder, their lead spokesperson, anyways, an attorney there in Spain, and very well put together. And they're running it like a business, which I appreciate. And there's another one called, I'm gonna mispronounce it. It's Necoin or Necoin, something like that. And it looks like little cats. It looks like Japanese anime cats.
oh yes, I've seen this.
And it's like a cool little NFT project. But what they've got cooking behind the scenes is an NFT marketplace specifically for like crowdfunding for good causes. And so it's going to operate not quite like a Kickstarter or something, but somewhat similar. If you are an NFT creator, you can go to their website, say, hey, I want to mint these NFTs. And they're going to have a drop down menu of like vetted organizations that you can pair up with. So if you want to be with St. Jude, or if you want to be with the Red Cross or the Ukraine Foundation, or whatever it is, they're going to pre-vet a bunch of these good causes, and you're going to have a little drop-down menu, and you're going to have a sliding bar that says, okay, I want 33%, or I want 66%, or I want 100% of the proceeds to go to that agency, and you can set your royalty stuff as well. But I like the fact that it's pre-vetted, because something in
Yeah.
our space that people are worried about is, hey, where's the money really going to? I think they've even had some conversations with Climate Trade, who I've worked with as well in the past. And, not because like Climate Trade is well known, but there's a lot of these other places that you're just not sure. Like, okay, is that wallet actually owned by Climate Trade or by the St. Jude's or whatever the case is?
Yeah.
So I like that project. So go check that one out.
No, that's really interesting. I'm on their Twitter right now, and as you said, it says, "Come join our community built on philanthropy, art, NFTs, and games." And it's really cool to see more and more projects trying to give back to any community they can. And
Mm-hmm.
NFTs create a lot of engagement. I mean, I know there's other popular crypto donation platforms like the Giving Block, but
Yeah.
those are kind of boring. I mean, you're just giving crypto if you feel like it. Whereas NFTs, they bring a little bit of fun to the donation process as well, or the philanthropy process. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's great for engagement, and of course, anything for a good cause for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's another one. Lootbox ASA. Have you heard about Lootbox ASA?
I stumbled upon it yesterday, and I clicked on their Twitter page, but didn't get much farther than that. Actually, it's funny that you brought it up.
He doesn't have very much. So
Yeah, it was
this
only
is
like 3 or 4 posts, I think, right?
yeah. So most of his activity is on Discord and Reddit. He's been
Okay.
active for about 6 months, and unlike most projects, he's not trying to like get rich or provide like a valuable, behind the scenes service for people who use the blockchain. Really, what he's doing is like just want to give away free stuff. He's
Yep.
like
Just
anything.
trying to have
He's
some fun.
I'm just trying to have some fun. So he's got stake earnings he's gotten from staking platforms like I'll go stake in Yieldly, I think, and whatever his earnings are, he gives away like 80% to the people in the Lootbox ASA. So it's just sort of like a distribution of random assets. He did a nerd drop, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and we're actually in negotiations with him to try and figure out, hey, can we get like a monthly nerd loot drop or something,
Yeah.
just to sponsor that and give some extra utility or bonuses because we've got the nerd token, which is just a loyalty token, so we want to get some free stuff for them too. But there's all these
Yes.
little projects out there that are just cool.
Yeah, certainly a fun way to get some token distribution. I'm seeing a tweet here from them talking about the NFT grocery game, and I don't know if you know much about that, but I was in a Discord group
Mm,
where that existed, and it seemed like it was a lot of fun. But I honestly could not figure it out for the life of me. It was too complicated for
me
me to
too.
figure it out. But it did seem like people were having a lot of fun with it, and it was kind of a cool a way to integrate NFTs into a Discord group. I
Mhm.
really couldn't understand it though.
Yeah, no, same. I'm not heavily involved in Discord, and it's a Discord game, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so it seems interesting, and it's probably one of those things where if we got into it, there's probably like a learning curve, just like when you play like a new video game or something. Like you get in, they like get you through the tutorial, then like you pick up one skill at a time.
Yeah.
That's my take on it, anyway. It's just, man, do I want to spend that time to go dive in there? There's almost only so much time for and so many projects to like get to.
Yep. Only so much time in the day. I wish there was more time in the day sometimes, to be honest.
Yeah. All right.
You
Well,
know,
let's talk. I was
so
gonna
you
I was gonna switch to some of these bigger projects,
no,
but
this
if
is
it,
perfect actually. Go
okay,
for it.
I was just gonna say so. Switching from smaller project to bigger projects, everybody is talking about the options for governance. And I know you have a particular take on this, one that I actually, didn't form myself. I actually just piggybacked off your idea, and I said, you know what, like JT's pretty smart. I should do this as well. Talk to us about your plan to kind of use, spread out the wealth, so to speak, on your governance staking.
Yeah, 100%. I haven't fully formulated my exact plan. I actually plan on doing some of that after this call, or actually probably after the Twitter space that happens after this call.
Hmm.
But that being said, yeah, I do plan on using all three platforms primarily because each of them offer different incentives and rewards, but also I feel like it can spread your risk around because if you go, 100% in AlgoFi, and AlgoFi has an exploit, then you could have 100% of your bag at risk. But if you spread it out,
Hmm.
maybe 33% among all of them, or even if you trust one even more, like 75 or like 50%, 25 and 25%, however you feel, but spreading your risk around, if there does happen to be an exploit, you at least can be assured that two of your other spots haven't even touched an exploit yet, which is you can sleep better at night knowing that 100% of your bag isn't at risk by one single exploit, which I think is risk aversion is really good in this space, especially because I mean anybody that participates in governance currently has been doing it pretty much the least riskiest way possible by just keeping it in your wallet and participating in governance. So using any of these platforms increases a little bit of risk because you're using smart contracts that, yes, have been audited, but as we can see, audited contracts can sometimes still have exploits. So that's part of the reason why, in my opinion, I do think, I'm not a financial advisor, but I do think it would be good for, risk aversion to spread it around amongst a couple platforms if you do wish to go that route.
100%. So I agree. You should not put 100% of your eggs in one basket. You should
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
spread that around. And it just makes sense, especially because this is really the first kind of a go around for all of these platforms doing this specifically.
Yeah,
And do we trust AlgoFi and folks and Guard? Yeah, like we trust them, but like my mother always said, trust but verify. So
100%.
I like the
Oh, she
idea of
was the
spreading it
original
around.
Bitcoiner, huh?
Yeah, that was her. Yep. My mom is Satoshi.
Satoshi. Awesome. That's great.
I think that it's easy to just get kind of like tunnel vision if
Yeah.
if you've already worked with AlgoFi, for instance, and you've already got some staking or you're already trading there or what have you, and just say, okay, let me keep this all on one platform.
Yeah.
But just because you may not have interacted with folks in Guard before doesn't mean you shouldn't give a little bit of I don't know, diversification to them over
Yeah.
there.
And I get it. I will probably personally keep most of it on AlgoFi just because they've had 3 or 4 months of a successful platform. I don't know exactly when they launched, but I believe it was like 3 or 4 months ago now.
Yeah.
And I don't think their vault contracts are much different than their actual lending platform contracts. So in my opinion, they just have been tested a little bit longer. But of course, I do still plan on using Folks Finance and Guard primarily because they're just very interesting ways to leverage your capital on both of those systems.
Yeah, I agree. Now, folks, I'm not as familiar with. Have you really taken a look at the folks system and what differentiates it from the other two?
Yeah, I like Folks a lot. I actually haven't. Spent less time exploring AlgoGuard's system because it just like the web page seemed a little bit more complicated and clunky to me. But Folks Finance is pretty similar to AlgoFi in the sense where you have your lending pool, you can borrow assets like Go BTC and Go ETH or USDC and whatnot, pretty much the same assets that are on AlgoFi. Their governance structure is a little different though. They're doing a delegated governance structure where you will deposit your Algorand and you would get a G algo in return that's basically represented 1 to 1. So at the end, you would return your G algo for the algo that you originally deposited plus any rewards. But instead of voting yourself, you're basically delegating that algo to Folks Finance to vote. So
Yeah.
some people don't like that system itself, and I understand because it basically changes it to more of like a delegated proof of stake model with governance. But that being said, I do think there are a lot of interesting ways to leverage the capital over there. So I'd be okay with delegating a small portion of my vote to them just to gain more exposure to some of these yields, especially going on right now with Algo Mint. You see on PactFi, there's like 136% yield for the Algo Go BTC pair right now. It's
Yeah.
pretty stellar.
Yeah. And I think that folks announced, if I'm not mistaken, that they were just going to vote with the foundation. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So if you were going to vote with the foundation anyway, and sort of predetermined, I think that's probably a safe bet.
Yeah, and so far I've voted with the foundation every time. So of course I could foresee a future where maybe I wouldn't want to, but that being said, I'm okay with it.
I think that brings up the interesting topic, though, of delegation, because this is sort of, delegation wasn't specifically outlined in the new process, but it looks like there are chances to, delegate, and there are going to be more opportunities for these kind of groups to collect votes, so to speak.
For sure, with the
And
X-Codes.
eventually maybe, have some serious power there. I don't know. What do you think about that? Is that a fear? Should we be worried about it?
It's too hard to speculate that far into the future. I like the concept because it also gives the community the ability through participation to also promote things to be voted on as opposed to just having this top down thing where we have now, where we're just given questions to vote on, almost like a presidential election. Like, here's your two choices. Like, if you don't like them, like, oh well, here's your two choices.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that a little bit more, but I do also understand the concerns. But we also, we have to be real too. If you're holding your algo on, say, like Coinbase, you're delegating your vote to Coinbase.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know.
Does, does
It's a
Coinbase actually vote?
oh, they did, they vote. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
They, I believe that's part of how they. I mean, they switched it down to like 0.45%, but that's how they
Yeah.
still maintain a slight bit of rewards to give out to their algo holders.
Yeah. They're staking there. Interesting.
I think they
Okay.
said they'd vote with the foundation as well, but like, I mean, you can't trust all these exchanges to constantly
Yeah. Right on.
vote. Yeah, vote in good favor.
I don't know. I got to apologize to the audience. So we've got a couple dozen people on right now. However, the chat feature is not working. So a couple people messaged
Oh
me.
no.
The chat is live. Like if you're in the Twitter feed or on the YouTube channel, you can post there, but we cannot see it. So we're not ignoring you. We just can't see it there. So sorry, John and whoever else is out there watching.
I've never been on this side of Restream, so I was just wondering if I just couldn't see them as a guest, but that's good to know. Maybe that's also what led to the problem earlier where I couldn't connect my channel. Maybe Restream's having an issue.
Maybe Restream is having some issues. Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering why we didn't get any comments because usually with like there's a steady stream of
Yep.
comments over there.
Yep.
But that's all right. We'll carry on. All right. So governance stuff. I think we've kind of nailed it. I would recommend diversification as well.
Yeah,
And how
what's
much
your
we
plan?
got?
You didn't really mention what your plan was.
Oh, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm thinking I might just straight up go like a third. Maybe 50, 25, 25. I haven't nailed it down just yet. We've still got a little bit of time to figure it out, but
Yep. I
not
think like
much.
4 days.
Yeah. So really today for me is the day that I got to pull the trigger on that and make sure it's all settled. And then it's one of those things where you just got to set and forget it. And then once you make that decision, you're okay. It's just ride or die in time now.
Yeah, at least on AlgoFi, I noticed that those extra rewards. I mean, have you used AlgoFi? I'm sure you have, right?
A little bit, yeah.
The extra rewards that like the algo rewards you get per day for supplying collateral and whatnot.
Yes.
I noticed that when you move that algo from that lending protocol over to the vault, you no longer get those rewards. So I actually moved my algo right back, and I'm like waiting to the very last day to move it over, just so I can milk the most rewards I can out of the system.
Yeah, you might as well. I like their vault system though. That does make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
I asked them if they would, even further, make like a lock feature, an escrow feature, like one step further past that, and they seemed open to it. But I think it's pretty far down the line.
Yeah, I like the concept. I mean, I think the vaults are actually probably a little safer because they're individualized and personalized as opposed to just a giant pool like the lending protocol is. So, I mean, if that one pool gets exploited, they could just drain, in theory, the whole
Everybody,
pool.
yeah.
But, I mean, I guess in theory, too, they could just replicate the exploit. Like, if they were able to exploit one personalized vault, they could probably replicate it. But I feel like they would it would spread like a web as opposed to just being like a pool. You know what I mean? So users would have time before theirs was exploited. I believe at least.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, though. I mean, AlgoFi's been great. We've only really had one true exploit, which was the Tiny Man one. Everything else has just been kind of hiccups in the road. So
Yeah.
So far so good.
Humblefy, they've got their, they're just waiting to launch V2 essentially. So theirs was like it was a very minor exploit that was
Yep.
just a possibility. Nothing actually happened.
Yep, and props to the DeFly team because they're the
Yeah.
ones that actually figured that out. I mean, they were working to integrate Humble into their app, and they were like, "Oh, we found this while we were trying to integrate your app," and they alerted them. And
Yeah.
fortunately, nobody lost any money, and it was so early on that it really, no harm, no foul. It's basically like they're going to start a couple weeks later than they predicted.
Yeah, I think they're fine. And Yieldly's thing with the headline pool was actually not that bad either. There was a lot of speculation about being much worse than it was, but it turns out it was hardly anything. I think they sort of, they've had some PR stuff, but I think we'll talk about them in a few minutes. But I like the Yieldly team still. But let's talk about them here in a few minutes. So first up, Earth Day. So what do you know about Earth Day announcement? Stacy says something's going down.
You know about as much as I do about that, and that's that right there. That something is going down, and unfortunately, all we can do is speculate from here. So, what are your speculations?
I don't know, new partnerships. They can't go more carbon negative, right? I guess they could. They could
They
sponsor
could
some
probably,
additional,
yeah.
sponsor additional projects, or give some big donations, or partner with Algawana or somebody like that who's planting trees. There might be some kind of a specialty product or announcement like that, but I think it's going to be bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't think she would create that level of hype. Plus, she's been talking about a huge, huge marketing ramp up over the next month. So
Yeah.
all eyes are on it, I suppose.
Yeah. I anticipate something, either, one of two things, either like super splashy, like a sponsorship deal of some kind of a mainstream, entertainment type of a deal,
Yeah.
or something like with huge fundamental, backbone issues that it's going to save a lot of energy and a lot of, power and carbon on the backside, like a switch over, of a company's, kind of like a Latin American country switched over to Algorand on the back end for all of their information transfer between governments, or something like that, that has a significant measurable savings on the planet.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely going to be something environmental related, but it's got to be something big. I really have no idea. Imagine if they were going so carbon negative, they were making other chains carbon negative. They're like, oh, we'll go so carbon negative that now Salon is carbon negative.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every time Solana shuts down, we'll just sponsor them
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and make sure they're moving carbon negative. That would be something.
It'd be
Um,
kind of funny at least.
mhm. Kind of a backhanded compliment, I guess. Oh yeah, no worries. We'll go ahead and pick up your slack. No worries. I don't know what else is going on over there. I do know that there are events planned all over. Nifty Media Art has an Earth Day event in New
Yep.
York City that's going down.
Oh,
Um,
actually, Nifty Media is going to be on a Twitter space that Sarah and I host every Monday. You were actually on last Monday, correct?
awesome. I will be there this Monday to kind of chime in and ask some questions. And that group is really, really intelligent. Have you worked with them or had conversations with them before in the past?
I have not. Sarah set it all up. They were actually very excited to come on. They were trying to have all six of their team come on, but we figured that might be a crowded field, so we
Yeah.
boiled it down to maybe two or three. But yeah, it should be an exciting time. Anyone listening, it's 8 p.m. Eastern Central, Monday nights.
hmm That's a great show, and Nifty is they are an underrated project as well. I'll tell you a funny story. So, Fabs, the lead sort of face of the company, met me at Decipher, and he's a very
Mm.
unassuming gentleman. He walked up and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Crypto Nerd." He's very unassuming, and
Wait, you're not Cooper?
yeah, right. Oh yeah. Sorry, Cooper nerd, and it gave me his card and said, we're producing this, this NFT marketplace, and had very big aspirations, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, let's see what you actually do, because so many of these projects are just folks who
Mm.
have dreams rather than the ability to execute. And I'll be darned, and like a couple months later, their website went live, and we're exchanging emails, and I was like, "Holy smokes! Like, you weren't kidding. You have Grammy Award winners, Oscar Award winners, Globe winners. Like, the talent that they have on their site, and the backing from industry insiders from the entertainment industry is phenomenal." Nifty Media Art, like, they're gonna take the world by storm. I'm telling you. Um,
That's really exciting, actually. I haven't done my due diligence yet. That was part of my agenda for tonight, so I can get ready for tomorrow. So actually, I'm excited to do a deep dive.
oh yeah, they it's a very, very exciting project, and I don't know why more people don't know about them. But you and I, we've got to do our part to kind of make the community aware of what they've got going on.
Yeah, they've flown under the radar. It's funny that you mentioned that about Decipher because I'm like 90% positive out of the many business cards I collected that I got one from them as well.
Yeah.
Any speculation on where Decipher might be this year?
Oh, I think it's going to be in Miami again. I
Yeah,
think it was going to be someplace else. I think they'd announce it, but they keep going back to Miami. The team's, comfortable there. Miami's very welcoming,
very crypto friendly.
very
Plus,
crypto friendly.
plus if they continue to do it towards the end of the year as kind of a recap of the year, plus like projecting
Yeah.
for the next year forward, it's a warm place during that time of year. So yeah, I'm with
Yeah.
it.
I think it's accessible, and a large part of the crypto world, is in the United States or US, adjacent. It's close by. Our European friends can make the trip over, and I think they're based out of Boston. They're going to be a little biased towards something closer, I think. The only other alternative I've heard kicked around was Austin, which I would like. They've also did the South by Southwest thing. I'm based out of Texas. The weather in Austin is nice. They're also crypto friendly.
Yep.
But I don't know. I think Miami has the advantage, and that's pure speculation. I don't know anything behind the scenes or anything, but it seems like Miami would be the natural fit.
You think any of the original NFT holders will have any perks for the upcoming NFT Decipher? I mean,
Man, I hope so. Because I'm still holding on to my Algo Gator. But what happens if somebody bought it on the secondary market? Do they get perks as well? I don't know.
I wonder. I feel like there'd be this interesting thing if a couple years down the line they're like, oh, here's this really sweet perk for the original attendees that never sold
Yeah,
their Decipher NFT, and it would probably only be like 20 people at that point, but who knows?
yeah. They should have set them out initially. I think with some kind of like a freeze. Like that way you couldn't swap it out or do something else with it. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's cool because there's been plenty of sales, and the creators still get a 10% cut. So it is cool to continue to support the artist, even if somebody wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah, I checked it out actually the other day. I think they're going for like darn near 1,000 algos, even in today's market.
Yep. I have the cheapest one up right now at 675 algo. If anyone is interested.
675 algo. All right, what's your gator look like?
Uh, I don't remember. I think it's Gator 203 though. Feel
Yeah,
free to look it up on the NFT Explorer app.
you remember the number, but not like whether or not it had a stone tail or if it just said Decipher Miami up at the top.
Let's see. I've got it right here. It says Decipher in the background with like a spray paint can.
Yeah,
It's kind of got the dragon tail with like fire breathing out of it. Has braces. It's blue.
there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
All right,
That's
go check it out. 675. All right. Can we touch on Algo Fund? So,
sure.
Fair Meme, I think, actually put out a test net of their Launchpad project not too long ago. And Algo Fund went live with their test net yesterday. I put out a tweet about it, and we have a partnership with them. So I am clearly biased. So feel free to call me out on being biased, but I am. But I want people to go check it out, poke some holes in it, see if you can break it. I want folks to go in. Right now you can't spend any nerd on there, but eventually you'll see some nerd branding on there as well. The guys who are behind the scenes on that, really smart guys out of France. They've put this thing together. We've partnered with them to bring new businesses to the space, so we'll help them create businesses, give them advice on tokenomics, that sort of thing, and then help them with the launch pad and the distribution, and maybe even any staking options or anything like that afterwards. But um,
Yeah, I don't
the
know.
launch pads, they've got to make an appearance sooner or later.
Yep, 100%. That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't know enough about Algo Fund particularly, but I'm on their site right now. It looks pretty straightforward. You've got your staking pools. You can stake Algo Fund for more Algo Fund. You've got your farming pools, and
Mm-hmm.
of course you can stake your Algo Fund and Nerd LP tokens for more Nerd.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you've got your coming soon Launchpad, which 100% is necessary, whether it's Algo Fund or Yieldly or whoever. I mean, the more the merrier, because I think competition in the space is great.
yeah.
But yeah, we certainly need it because we've seen so many projects that just have terrible launches, and it's primarily because there's just not enough infrastructure in the system to do a solid launch.
Absolutely. So we're taking precautions to make sure that the projects that we sponsor on there are clear. They got background checks done. Citrus Pebbles, if you know Citrus Pebbles, she has done a lot of diligent work behind the scenes, trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to verify that somebody is who they say they are. Their resume really is accurate, and they went to school here. So not just that they have on LinkedIn, because unfortunately, I've seen a few projects where a LinkedIn was just bogus up.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and it's like it's a fake picture. It's not even a real person, or it's somebody else. So we got to do like reverse image searches now on somebody's like portfolio. It's crazy.
Yeah, social media page in any sense isn't reliable enough. I mean, you can whip
Yeah,
those up in just a couple of minutes. Even a website, you can go to Squarespace and whip up a half decent looking website in just a short amount of time. So you
yeah.
certainly, I mean, some more validation than that is good. But I also, I mean, there's still some sort of essence of crypto where there's that anonymity, which I don't necessarily want to see go away completely. So I wonder how we rectify that in the space, because in one sense is like two extremes where there's like completely anonymous and then like give us all of your information.
Yeah.
And I just wonder where that pendulum will settle in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. It is definitely a fine line that we walk. There are projects that are fully doxed, right? You know who I am. You can go check out my LinkedIn. I list Crypto Nerd Media on my LinkedIn page. All my real estate endeavors, all my social, stuff, all the videos for all kinds of projects, not just crypto, is available and out there in the world. But there's also a certain aspect of people that are like, wow, you know what? I work for Microsoft or Oracle or Google or Facebook or Amazon or somebody else, and they've got a moonlighting clause in their contract where, if they have intellectual property that they created while they worked for them, maybe that intellectual property could be at danger unless they separate themselves from the project and the project becomes, its own LLC and, is assigned someplace else. And I understand that too. Like, those people have those passion projects and they don't want to give that up necessarily, and clearly they can maintain it. So I
Yeah,
see I see both.
and there are many reasons. Like, you could be trying to start a project in a country where crypto is very unsavory to the governments that you're under. So there are many reasons. That the largest crypto in the entire space is from an anonymous founder. So
Yeah.
it's hard to try to get rid of it completely.
Would
But
Bitcoin be where it is now if we know who Satoshi was?
I don't think so,
I
honestly.
don't think so either.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. I don't think that everybody needs to know everything about everyone. What I would like to do is, for me personally, if I'm going to do business with you, I do want to know who you are, and
Yeah.
I want to know, like, I forget who it was, but somebody on our Twitter family space last week said, "I don't want to do business with you if I can't sue you," which is a terrible way to like think about it, but also practical.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I get that feeling. What I want to see more in this space are just more projects that launch completely like without a token, without seeking investment, which I understand is hard. Maybe they seek investment from private investors, but
mhm.
one of the things that makes it really difficult is you have these token launches and you have no project behind it. You don't know who these people are, and then it becomes really risky because you just have this potentially this token that's potentially worth something in the future, but currently is really worthless because you can't use it.
Yeah.
But if you had a project launch and went completely open source and you could verify all of the code, you could verify the entire app, well, if that person was still anonymous, who cares if you could go and verify everything is what it's supposed to be and it's going to function the way it's supposed to function. But when you launch anonymously without any product that people can verify and they just have to trust in this anonymous person and not trust in the code that you put out open source, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah, I agree. So hopefully there's a happy medium that we can come up with. I know the foundation, or maybe it was Parawalla, put out an article that said, "Hey, we're proposing 3 different levels of verification moving forward." So just suspicious. We verify that you own the domain and approved or something like that, or maybe it's validated and verified. They had 2 different levels, and the highest level was you doxed to the foundation or what have you, and like they have all of your information. So if you ended up doing something inappropriate, presumably they would have your info. I take that one step further. If you're going to do business with us, and I put you through a background check that you pay for, actually. So if you want to partner with a crypto nerd team, like, be prepared to cough up $400 or so to pay for it, possibly an international background check, and then you get the results though, and then you return them over to us. So I don't want like your driver's license, social security number, all that. You just get the results and verify them for us. But that's our solution for now. I'm not sure it's the best one, but for right now, it at
No,
least satisfies us.
I like it, and I like the fact that there are a lot of different projects that are trying to tackle the same problem. Because I could see in the future, maybe we have 5, 6, 7 different outlets where you can go and get different ratings on different projects, and maybe your risk tolerance would be that you go and get make sure that at least 4 ratings are good, but somebody else is like, oh, maybe 2 is good enough for me, and somebody else is like, I need all 7 of these to have a good rate. So
Yeah.
everyone will find a risk tolerance that's good for them. But I do appreciate that there are many people focusing on this issue, because until we have a lot more dApps and there's a lot more to do in this ecosystem, there's going to be scams there's going to be scams regardless, but it's going to drown out all of the good stuff because there isn't much going on. And that's changing. The
Yeah.
ecosystem is already way bigger and way more fun to be involved in than it was even 6 months ago. So I do see that trajectory changing anyway. But
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about TVL.
yeah, ring that bell.
Yeah, ding. All right, we're moving on. So TVL, I saw an interesting post. Algo Family called out somebody and said, "Hey, how come the TVL doesn't include a lot of the wrapped BTC?" I think that Algomint was putting out, and I didn't know enough about that to kind of follow along the conversation. But if that's true, then the real TVL, I guess, so to speak, is much higher than what it looks like. Did you follow that conversation?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've actually had a conversation with DeFi Llama about this, and I haven't. I truly don't fully understand their reasoning behind it, but yeah, they don't. At least for the current iteration, they don't count TVL coming from wrapped tokens, and they also don't count the TVL from like things like the stable token on AlgoFi, which that makes more sense to me because
Hmm.
you're already counting the TVL from the assets that are backing it. So if you count, the dollars that are created off of the collateral, you're basically counting it twice. So
Hmm.
I understand that rationale, but I don't really understand their rationale behind the wrap tokens, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it seems like okay, that's on the Algorand chain now. Like it's physically there. You can verify it. It's taking up space. It's on the chain. So it seems to me like why wouldn't we count that?
I wonder if it's simply because it's a bridge where the tokens aren't actually held like on chain; they're held in uh, a private custody by what is it, Meld Gold or whoever runs the Algomint, uh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Copper. It's Copper that does their
copper.
custody.
Yeah,
They are planning to transition to more of a on-chain smart contract platform, but as of right now, their bridge is a more centralized bridge, and their custodian is Copper. So I do wonder maybe if that is the issue, maybe because they're not stored. So it's just like this token that's supposedly backed by something, but you can't truly verify it because it's not held on chain. You know what I mean?
that's more substance than any ASA. You know what? Like nerd. Like I don't have $5 million or 5 million in gold or 5 million in Bitcoin backing up the total market value of nerd tokens. But yet it still gets accounted for, in TVL, in some way, shape, or form. We distribute a whole bunch of it, and it's TVL. It's out there in Yieldly. It's out there in Algofy. It's on August. It's out there and it's counted. And but Go BTC, that's an ASA. It's got an ASA, identifier.
And I
It's
th-
it's real, and it's backed up by something else that is also real. Not that
now,
nerds, bad investment, but like it's not backed up the same way, right?
yeah, I think you're right. I'm gonna check DeFi Llama right now, but if I'm not mistaken, I noticed that in like liquidity pools on, say Tinyman, it was counted, but then as collateral on like things like AlgoFi, it wasn't counted. And it
Yeah,
seems to me that rule is very arbitrary, and I'm unsure why. Hopefully it'll change, but I mean, as of right now, it's not a huge big of a deal because I mean, yeah, there's a handful of Bitcoin and Ethereum on the chain, but really not anything comparatively. I think it would add maybe like 10 or 20 million, which of course at this point is substantial, and it could get to a substantial point if there's like a billion worth of Ethereum that gets bridged over here. I could see that becoming
yeah,
a substantial issue, but I also it's probably likely that that's the same thing across all chains then. So even though, yeah, it might be bring our TVL down in aggregate, I mean, it would probably just raise the TVL of every chain that has these wrap tokens on it as well. But I'm unsure
yeah.
how they do their metrics, to be honest.
Wonder what Flare's going to do, because Flare is like 100% all wrapped tokens when they go live. What about all the stable coins? Is our TVL officially about to explode because of governance? Because everybody's double dipping essentially. They're putting in their algos, they're held there, they're counting towards TVL, they're in for governance, but they're withdrawing, guard or stable, right?
Yep. Now, this go round, I'm not sure if it's going to explode like a lot of us had hoped, unless something changes big in the next couple of days. Our TVL sitting by DeFi Llama's metrics around 161 million, and that's definitely under because there are a couple apps that aren't being counted on this. I recently found out the other day, buying.com has like $8 million worth of their buy token staked on their platform.
Hmm.
So there's a couple platforms out there that Humble Swap, they still don't have liquidity on their platform. Folks
Right.
Finance isn't being tracked yet. AlgoGuard's not being tracked yet. So this TVL is probably likely once everything's fully tracked, probably already over 200 million by DeFi Llama metrics, which is great. And if you click over to Algo, we're pretty much at an all-time high in terms of Algo, which is pretty good to consider as well, because that just means if the price of Algo gets back to, say, $2, there's 204 million Algo equivalent in TVL. That means our TVL just by price change alone would be like $400 million. So,
Mm-hmm.
but oh yeah, let me see. I was looking at Tinyman real quick. I forget where I was going with our conversation, but Tinyman's reading at 21 million TVL, and DeFi Llama's reading it at 21 million. So they must be counting the wrapped assets on these dexes. So I don't
Yeah.
understand. I don't understand what the difference is when used as collateral on, say, AlgoFi, because AlgoFi's TVL on DeFi Llama is off by about 20 million compared to their metrics on the app. So I don't know.
Interesting. All right. Well, I think that there's much more out there than we've got like optics on.
Yeah.
I think that there's just they're not counting some things yet. It's not all integrated. It's just not a full picture yet.
It's not, but I mean, it is also up to a lot of these projects to reach out to DeFi Llama because I mean they're doing this for the entire ecosystem. There's no way they can keep track of what. I mean, we have our eyes on the Algorand space alone, and we can't even keep up. So it is,
Yeah.
if you're running a project out there that has any sort of TVL, if you have ins to anybody that's not listed, all that's listed for TVL right now is AlgoFi, Yieldly, TinyMan, and Pact. If you have any ins anywhere else, tell them to message DeFi Llama so the rest of the crypto ecosystem and the crypto community can know what's going on in Algorand.
Yes. All right. Let's move on. We got 8 minutes left.
All right, let's do it.
So should we talk about Yieldly? So the Yieldly has taken a
Sure.
beating over
It
the
has.
last 2 months. I would say they lost their CTO. They had the headline news. They're losing pools. There's less pools available right now. The token itself has gone down something like 90%. I want to say over the last 60 to 90 days, right?
And their TVL is honestly kind of inflated because if you've gone onto the Yieldly app recently, it's reading right here as the price for Yieldly is 0.008, where the price of Yieldly is really like 0.003 on every
Yeah.
exchange. They're pulling the price from Uniswap, and for some reason it's crazy money over at Uniswap. It's
Yeah.
almost three times the price.
I don't know
Which
why it's that way.
and Yieldly's TVL is reading about $30 million, but if you divide that by about 2 or 3 because of the token price listing, you really only got about like $10 million worth of TVL, which is really honestly insane given the fact that at one point it was $161 million on January 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they've
Yeah.
they've lost like 90+% of their TVL over the course of 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, it's crazy. So they announced the burn that they are partnering with the algo burner. I think that HDL put together.
Yeah.
Is that enough to move the needle at all? You think?
If it was just that one single burn, definitely not. They burned like $30,000 worth of tokens, which is
Yeah,
pretty much
nothing.
nothing. But
Yeah.
if they continue to do it, then potentially. I do then have questions on the long-term sustainability of the token because
Mm-hmm.
the token itself is set to be in full circulation in about 4 or 5 years. So then where are the rewards going to come from? And are you going to hasten that distribution if you start burning some tokens? So, it does leave a lot of questions. I did, full disclosure, purchase a little bit of Yieldly before they announced the burn, just in case it did do something and I was going to trade it, but it did exactly the opposite and has only gone down. So
Yeah.
that was a bad trade. I only put in like, 0.5% of my portfolio, but it's okay.
It was a little something. Well, I know that they've got some news coming. I am actually still bullish on the Yieldly team. And it's not just because Nerd and Yieldly work together. We've got the pools definitely with them. And that's a double-edged sword, by the way. I've talked to a lot of projects that are like, hey, giving away so much that way definitely drove down the value. And I have seen that people, are kind of greedy or they go on there just to earn the Nerd token. As you said, they've got that pool there. You stake your Yieldly, you earn Nerd. And right now, I think the volume there was about 3 million, I think, between the two pools we've got. And so we're giving away a ton of Nerd over there. And a lot of that gets sold through TinyMan. We watch it. On the flip side, there's a lot of people that hold too, and for us that's good because we need people who have wallets who are going to engage with the ecosystem. So when you hold Nerd, you get access to all these other things like Algo Fund and marketplaces and things like that. So it's good to get exposure, but it's also bad for price action in the short run. In the long run, I don't know.
Especially during time periods like of uncertainty like we're in right now, because staking tokens are notoriously known for losing a lot of their value pretty quickly for this exact reason, because people, they're basically yield mercenaries where they're just going in trying to claim the biggest yield they can. They don't really care about the token, and they're just swapping the token that they get rewarded with every day into a more hard asset like Algo or USDC. And especially in hard times like this, I probably see that continuing until we get back to a bear market where people are like, you know what, I'll hold this speculative token, that's more risky token as opposed to switching it to Algo, because who knows, the gains could be great. But I understand people. I do it as well with some of my yield farming where I switch it either to like Algo or USDC, and that's actually or even stable. That's actually part of the reason why I like AlgoFi's staking, because a lot of the rewards you get are the hard assets. Like I'm already rewarded in Algorand or Opulus or Stable, their stable coins. So
Yeah.
there's no need to switch anything at that point because I already have the assets I want.
Yeah. We try to mitigate that by heavily incentivizing the pool, the LP
Mm,
tokens. So
yep.
Algo Stake has Algorand and Nerd pairing, and you get triple digits. I forget what the APR is on that one. It's 200 plus. I think the Yieldly Nerd LP token on Yieldly themselves is probably, I don't know, it's probably close to 200 as well there.
It's
Um,
296 right now, actually.
296 right now. So,
Wow.
hopefully that incentivizes people to hold, but you have to do that. So it's almost like the cycle. Okay, I'm going to give away a bunch of free stuff and then, oh no, they're selling it. Let me jack up the incentives for my LP pool to incentivize people to hold. But eventually, like, projects are going to have to wean off of that. And I've seen projects
Yep.
that do wean off or cut that off cold turkey. Then their price is really jacked up because there's no incentive to hold that LP, and they just liquidate their positions and sell batch then. So you see these large sales after the LP pools are gone.
Yep.
I don't know. So that's an issue that, like, we as a project are facing, and I know other projects are facing that as well. And we got to have like a plan that takes place right after that ends to encourage people to hold. So we've got all these other things. Um,
It really comes down to, in my opinion, like utility to drive that demand.
yeah.
If the only demand is coming from the rewards people are getting, of course, when those dry up, I mean,
Gone.
the demand's going to dry up as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so all these projects need to have some utility in place. For us, we always knew, hey, we're going to have 90 to 120 days of these pools, and then we better damn well sure have like some utility in place, so people are going to want to hold it still. So time's running out though, so we got to make sure we deliver here shortly. Yieldly though, so Yieldly has some really cool stuff coming up. So I had a conversation with them. They said I had to keep off the book, so clearly I'm going to talk about it here on the show. So Sam, I'm not going to spill everything, but what I did get out of them was a clear commitment to build on Algorand first,
Hmm.
not on Polygon, not with ETH, nothing, no other blockchain activities are as prioritized as Algorand, and they're building some really cool, partnerships. We've got Cosmic Champs kind of on the docket to talk about. Cosmic Champs is an NFT game. It's not really just an NFT game. It's a play to earn game that incorporates NFTs. They've got some cool partnerships with them. They've got their esports stuff, even though a lot of that has come on the backs of the Polygon announcements. Really, all of that is being built with Algorand though, and for the
Yeah.
Algorand community first. And even though it's not a staking platform, what they're building there is still really, really interesting. And I can't tell you exactly what it is or what it all entails, but I can tell you it's going to make a big difference and a big splash. And we're talking about things like play to earn. We already talked about the metaverse activities. We're talking about bridges. We're talking about a lot of really cool
Yeah.
things that they are working on. That's going to make a difference.
I think that'll be the make it or break it thing for Yieldly because, as we mentioned before, these staking tokens get hit really hard. And,
Yeah,
on your pool you were just mentioning, it was like 300% Yieldly rewards. That's a
yeah,
lot of Yieldly people can just sell. So if there's other mechanisms and other projects they can build, like this NFT marketplace and the launchpad to give more utility to the Yieldly token, that'll prevent people from just selling them after, getting these rewards and then just dumping the token afterwards. They'll hold on to the token because there are things to do, like maybe early access to projects on launch pads or
hmm
purchasing NFTs. You get like a deal if you do it with Yieldly versus Algo or something, or maybe just only Yieldly,
right.
or what have you. But driving more utility to that token is really, in my opinion, the only thing that's going to save it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. All right, let's talk about Cosmic Champs. So you were not familiar with Cosmic Champs. Oh, and then it's time. We got to like wrap it up after this.
Wrap it up.
So Cosmic Champs, I touched on them, and I will be hosting an AMA for them. I think. Oh shoot, I think it's Tuesday. I forget what time. I'll post it on Twitter. But there's an AMA going on in their Discord that Lauren and I are hosting. But it's a really smart team out of Australia. Not all gaming backgrounds. They come from all kinds of business backgrounds. But the gaming world they've definitely embraced. And it's a slowly growing project. It seems like sometimes when these things show up on our radar, it just seems like they popped up out of nowhere. But they've
Yep.
been working behind the scenes for a long time, and they're well connected with a large part with all the Australian community. And they actually got into the game because they were just fans of Krypto and Algorand, and they just happen to have some gaming history and partnerships as well. And they went to a convention. And just like, I met, the Nifty Media Art folks at Decipher. They met, some folks at their Australian sort of, Algorand event. They run into, Michael Cotton, who's like everywhere. And, next thing you know, they're putting together a system that is pretty impressive. If you go check out their artwork and what they've got, and they're fully doxxed and they've got a huge team. So especially on the heels of the Anaran,
Yep.
kind of conversation, there's a lot in the community that's like, man, we really wanted this. Clearly there was a demand for it and they got burned. So they're hesitant. Well, go check out the website, go check out the video we did. They're fully doxxed. Their LinkedIn's are there. They're real people. They've got a real product and they've got a real time frame. So they're not promising the moon. They're saying, hey, we'll have a beta here, end of summer. You can go check it out. They're slowly but surely making progress. They're going to have limited, player versus computer, player versus player, and then team activities later on. Like it's a legitimate rollout of a game where you can also earn some tokens. And that concept is not new. That play to earn.
No.
But in crypto, it really just makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And if done right, I think it could be a big aspect of the space. I do worry that there's a lot more games. I mean, I know nothing about Cosmic Champs, so I'm not saying this about them, but just in general in the space, where there's a lot more attention on the earn aspect of it as opposed to the play aspect of it, which I don't think is sustainable enough in the long run because people are coming as basically mercenaries as they do on the staking pools, as opposed to coming to play the game, which is what's really going to drive sustainability in the long run. So I definitely want to learn more about Cosmic Champs. And if you could maybe suggest in that Discord AMA for someone to just like copy and paste it as like a Medium article or something, that'd be great because I miss a lot of the AMAs that are hosted in Discord and Telegram.
Definitely, I'll go ahead and make that a priority. Their plan for the currency is not to have it. It is going to be tradable. You can't stop somebody from trading it, but
Of course.
it's mostly going to be like I'm an old school like World of Warcraft player. If you got WoW gold, you would want to spend it on gear, and so they're going to have gear and upgrades for gameplay, and I imagine that's the largest use case for it. But if you are a really good player and you want to sell some outside of it and say, okay, you know what, my Cosmic Champs bought me a beer car for $500, you could probably sell it and make $500.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know what you're going to do with that. Whatever you could swap it for anything you want, just to. But you could swap it out for something in real life if you wanted, or you could just gear the heck up out of your character and just dominate there. But it looks like that kind of a game where you're going to constantly have upgrades available, and the upgrades are as NFTs, so you could swap characters, you could sell your gear. There's lots of cool things that you can do that you can't do in some of these more traditional games.
Yeah, the future is really interesting. I mean, it's here. So
yeah. All right. Anything else you wanna wrap up on? I know we had a whole section like set aside for questions. I think we used up most of our time, but anything else that like we didn't touch on that you desperately wanted to like get out there?
I think we touched upon really most things. To be honest, I'm happy to do this again. We can always talk some more. I could talk Algorand for a couple hours, so there's always more to talk about. But I think we did a successful job here today.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for filling in for Coop. I did my best to put up a little Cooper homage today with the shirt, and
You did great. I wore the blazer in honor of you. Sometimes you throw the blazer on.
We swapped rules a little bit today. I apologize to everyone that the chat feature wasn't working, but next week we'll try and make sure that gets up and running. The restream service doesn't seem to be operating today, but it was still a great show. I appreciate you coming on, and we will have to have you back on again.
Yeah, happy to do it. Now, thanks for having me.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Take care.